Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to break down something that literally impacts every single one of us, and that's our money. Today, we're building a rock-solid financial toolkit right from the ground up. We'll start with those essential old-school building blocks you absolutely need, and then we're going to pivot. We're going to shine a massive spotlight on some of the modern, digital pitfalls that might be hiding right there on your smartphone. All right, let's just dive straight into it. I want to kick things off by asking you a very real, very direct question. If you had a $1,000 emergency pop up today, could you cover it? An unexpected car repair, a sudden medical bill, maybe your roof starts leaking out of nowhere. Well, the reality behind that question is honestly pretty startling. According to Bankrate's 2024 Annual Emergency Savings Report, only 44% of Americans actually could. Less than half. Think about that. That means the vast majority of people are just one bad break away from dealing with some severe financial weather. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Building an emergency fund. 2. Decoding credit and escrow. 3. Planning for your retirement. 4. The earned wage access trap. And 5. Pushing for fintech regulation. Section 1. Building an emergency fund. Building your safety net. The absolutely crucial point here is knowing exactly how to build this fund effectively. If we draw directly from Tinker Federal Credit Union's guidelines, your first step is aiming for 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses. And I mean just the essentials, not the fun money. Second, this cash needs to be liquid. That means you can access it the second you need it without getting slapped with any withdrawal penalties. Third, and this is a game changer, automate it. Set up automatic monthly transfers so you don't even have to think about it. It just quietly grows in the background. Ultimately, having this cash ready acts exactly like a financial storm shelter. It totally protects you from having to fall back on punishing high-interest debt when a crisis inevitably hits. Section 2. Decoding credit and escrow. Decoding the terms. First up, let's talk about credit utilization. This is honestly just the percentage of your available credit that you're actually using at any given time. So say you carry a $200 balance on a credit card that has a $1,000 limit. Your credit utilization is 20%. Why does this even matter? Well, credit bureaus look incredibly closely at this specific number to determine your overall credit score. Keeping this percentage nice and low shows lenders that you're responsible with borrowed money. Next, we've got the difference between a hard credit pull and a soft credit pull. I know this one trips a lot of people up. A hard pull happens when you formally apply for new credit, like going for a car loan or applying for a new credit card. This actually gets recorded on your report for 2 solid years, and it can slightly lower your score. Now, a soft pull is totally different. That's when you just check your own credit, or maybe a company pre-approves you for a mail promotion. Soft pulls are completely safe, zero effect on your credit score whatsoever. And hey, if you are navigating homeownership, you'll definitely run into escrow. Escrow is basically an arrangement with your mortgage lender where they collect a little bit of extra cash from you every month, alongside your actual mortgage payment. This pool of money pays for your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, and maybe private mortgage insurance. But here's the key thing to remember. It is totally a moving target. Because your taxes and insurance premiums are going to change every single year, your lender has to analyze this account annually. In fact, most require a minimum of 2 months' worth of extra payments to be held in that account, just to build a cushion and make sure you never run short. Section 3. Planning for your retirement. Securing your future. Now, the ultimate goal for retirement is to have as little tax burden as humanly possible, right? Especially when you're going to be living on a fixed income. And that brings us to the concept of a Roth IRA conversion. See, unlike a traditional IRA, which taxes you when you finally withdraw the money in retirement, a Roth IRA has you pay the income taxes up front. That allows you to enjoy completely tax-free withdrawals later in life. Honestly, it sounds like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Well, it turns out it's not always the right move. Let's break down exactly when doing this actually makes sense. You definitely want to convert to a Roth IRA in a year when your income happens to be exceptionally low, just to minimize those upfront taxes. You might also consider it if you currently live in a tax-free state, but you're planning to retire somewhere that does charge state income tax. But, and this is a big but, you absolutely do not want to convert if you just don't have the cash on hand to pay the conversion taxes right now. Oh, and here's a really fascinating detail. If you're nearing Medicare age, converting to a Roth actually increases your current taxable income. That could unexpectedly trigger a hike in your Medicare Part B and D premiums. So, moral of the story, always check with a financial advisor. Section 4. The Earned Wage Access Trap. Digital Pitfalls. All right, now we are talking about Earned Wage Access, or EWA apps. You've probably seen these. They're those slick, heavily marketed apps on your phone that promise you an instant advance on your next paycheck. They really push themselves as this helpful, innovative tech solution. But consumer advocates and labor unions, they are aggressively sounding the alarm. They argue that these apps are essentially just unregulated payday loans, completely hiding behind a sleek digital interface. And here is exactly why they are sounding that alarm. 330%. Yeah, according to a massive data study out of California that covered millions of transactions, and this is a study cited heavily by those consumer advocates, the average annual percentage rate, or APR, for these EWA products is over 330%. Seriously, whether they're charging mandatory fees or relying on supposedly voluntary tips, the math basically works out to an astronomical cost for the everyday consumer. To really put that into perspective, look at the giant gap between consumer law and reality here. Take the state of Maryland, for example. Their consumer loan laws strictly cap interest rates and fees at a maximum of 33% APR, specifically to protect citizens from predatory lending. Yet, because these EWA apps frame their costs as tips or expedite fees, their effective APR routinely exceeds 330%. Labor unions and consumer protection agencies strongly argue that these tech companies are blatantly exploiting loopholes just to skirt state lending laws. And all of this leads directly to what's known as the EWA debt cycle. Look at how incredibly easy it is for a user to get trapped here. Step 1, you're a little short on cash, so you take a small advance right there on the app. Step 2, payday hits, and the app automatically repays itself directly from your bank account. Step 3, because your paycheck was just rated to pay back the app, plus all those fees or tips, you immediately face a shortfall for your current living expenses. Which brings us to step 4. You were effectively forced to reborrow from the app just to get by. That same California study actually found the average borrower takes 36 advances a year. That means workers are essentially paying a massive premium week after week, literally just to access their own money. Section 5. Pushing for fintech regulation. Closing the loopholes. So, lawmakers and advocates are starting to push back, particularly through legislation like Maryland's House Bill 246. Just listen to how the Maryland State and D.C. AFL-CIO frames it. They argue, workers deserve protection from lenders that fail to register or abide by Maryland's lending laws and ends the unfair and opaque tipping practices. Advocates are pointing out that these so-called voluntary tips are honestly anything but voluntary. The data shows companies successfully collect these tips 73% of the time. That is generating millions upon millions of dollars straight from low-wage workers. So, what would Maryland House Bill 246 actually do if passed? First and foremost, it would legally classify these EWA cash advances strictly as loans. By doing that, it automatically enforces Maryland's existing 33% interest rate cap on every single associated fee. It also takes direct aim at what advocates call deceptive user interfaces by requiring any tips to be completely voluntary with a default setting of exactly $0. On top of that, it mandates state licensure for these lenders and completely bans them from using third-party debt collectors. It is a really comprehensive attempt to take old-school consumer protections and apply them to these new-school digital traps. Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, haven't we? From unlocking the power of a 3 to 6 month emergency fund, to understanding the real ins and outs of credit, all the way to spotting the hidden dangers of unregulated cash advance apps. So I want to leave you with this final, vital question to think about. From building a solid emergency fund to navigating the hidden traps right there on your smartphone, how will you protect your hard-earned paycheck? Take these tools we talked about today, stay curious, and take absolute control of your financial future. Thank you so much for learning with me today on The Explainer.